welcome to King's Pages, a little show where we talk about some of the wonderful reads we have available for you guys online from King Township Public Library. My name is Daniel Enns.
And I'm Brent Chittenden.
And we will be taking a look at these titles with you today. We're going to talk about a couple of comics that KTPL has available through our Hoopla app. And the first one we're going to talk about is Astro City.
Yeah, I was glad that you picked this one.
Well, it's one that I'd heard about for a while before I actually got around to reading it, and I was really surprised. And one of the big things that brought me to it was the main artist, Alex Ross.
Who does the covers for it, yeah.
Yeah, and his style, his artwork is famous in comics for ages now, and it really brings out just the tone of the whole piece, I find.
Yeah, it's weird. Brent Anderson is when he started, who's the guy who did the interiors of the book. When he started in comics, he's kind of been a journeyman comic artist, like really good, but he's worked on a little bit of everything. Before this, like he had worked for a couple decades, but before this, he was basically known for one really good book, which was X-Men God Loves, Man Kills. So he was an interesting choice for this project, but it works really, really well. Like everything about it is, it's odd because it's kind of a realistic superhero story in some ways, but it also harkens back to like the origins of like Superman and Batman and characters like that, like how they started off. So
it is. So for Astro City as a title is a comic book about superheroes, but it's about their real lives and taking a look at superheroes from other angles. It's one of the earlier works that really kind of deconstructs the whole Golden Age, Silver Age era of superheroes and what it would actually mean to be a superhero who can fly faster than the speed of sound, that feels like he has to save everyone, what it would be like to be a superhero who's supposed to be on duty saving lives every day, and how do you actually have a relationship with someone. It's something that explores superheroes as people. And
yeah,
it does a really, really nice, rich job of it, I found.
Yeah, and throughout the series, so we're mainly talking about the first book, but throughout the series, you get different sides of all parts of that. Like you get to see little bits with like lower level criminals and henchmen, like what happens to their lives. You see a little bit of what it's like to live in a city populated by superheroes.
Yeah.
And it's the deconstruction of it is pretty cool. It's weird because it's a brighter future version, like a future world version of Watchmen in a lot of ways. Watchmen was one of the first comics to kind of treat superheroes and vigilantes like real people, but it has a much darker tone than Astro City does.
Well, and that's the other title that we wanted to talk about today, also available on our Hoopla app, is Watchmen. Astro City and Watchmen, I find, are really good complements to one another. They both are works that take a deeper look at what lives of superheroes might actually be like if they were real people. But one, Astro City, is in a lot of ways a brighter slice of life sort of work, whereas Watchmen takes a much grittier, darker look. If you aren't familiar with Watchmen from the movie that came out a number of years ago, or the more recent adaptation, or I suppose rebranding, rebooking of the title as a series, it takes a very darker look, the darker side of personalities that would have powers in a world like this. And readers should be aware that Watchmen as a title does involve some heavier, darker subject matter. There is a fair bit of violence, and it does not shy away from blood or death of many characters. And there are also some issues with a character that does suffer at one point sexual abuse, and so readers should be aware of that before going in. As I said, Astro City does tend to take a much lighter look at things, though both of them together seem to complement each other as an angle in on real lives of people that are more than ordinary.
Yeah, especially how Watchmen treats Dr. Manhattan, because he is the atomic super person. And in real life, somebody like that is pretty much going to be a god. And that's how Watchmen treats him.
Yeah, as a character, most of the characters in Watchmen don't have a lot of powers. They're people that step up to try and be costume superheroes in a world that they feel needs it. Dr. Manhattan is the one that really clearly has these superpowers, and a big part of the story arc through it is not just the world dealing with what it would be like to have one person with so much power, but also how that person, Dr. Manhattan himself, is trying to figure out himself and his place in the world and humanity.
And as much as Alan Moore's script always gets lauded over because it's very, very well written, Dave Gibbons on artwork is just phenomenal, because he brings a lot of new stuff to it, but a lot of it is very old school comic book too, like the 9-panel grid system that Steve Ditko used to use on the first run of Spider-Man is a central art technique that Gibbons uses throughout the book. Like, most of the pages are these 9-panel grids, and it's really interesting watching him do that, but also do a more modern, at least at that time, a more modern art style within those confines.
No, it's true. So, and Watchmen has layers and layers and layers to dig into. If you are not familiar with comics, you can sit down and read Watchmen, and there's a lot to dive into. Just as rich, deep characters and storylines and exploration of Heart of Darkness type themes. But at the same time, the more that you know about comics, the more you'll realize just how much has gone into it from both the writer, Alan Moore, and the artwork. It's really, it is lauded as one of the greatest works, and for good reason.
Yeah, I read that book probably a couple years after it came out, about 5 or 6 years after it came out, and I reread it a lot. And every time I reread it, I get something new out of it. So it's definitely worth people taking a check out of the library for.
Well, I agree, and that's why I thought they're titles that we recommend to you today. So both of these titles, Astro City and Watchmen, are available through King Township Public Library's Hoopla app, and I hope that we'll see you checking them out. And by all means, we should have another episode for you soon with a few more titles if you'd like to come back. If you stumbled across us from somewhere else in the world, then please check out what is available from your own public library. They may have many of the same titles available to you. So, until next time, this is Daniel Enns and
Brent Chittenden.
And thanks for listening, and thanks for all the fish.
Thank you for listening to King's Pages. Theme music provided by purpleplanet.com.